Bag alert, major bag alert. Oh, bag alert. Brr, 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 brr. We are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Welcome to the mailbag, everybody. John, I pulled a pack of Tito's cards. I pulled out the Tito's Underdog. Tito's Underdog. That's right. They're trading cards. This is if you want to get a little crazy. 4 ounces of grapefruit juice, lime and grapefruit wedge. You'd have to know where the grapefruits are in the grocery store to actually pull this drink off.
I don't know.
But I don't know either. 4 ounces of grapefruit juice. Maybe you can just ask somebody for where the grapefruit juice is. And some Tito's.
Our long lost friend Lo Neal used to have a saying, said, "Let's get crazy," and that's where Tito's. Get Tito's right now. #1 vodka in America. Sponsored the pod. Sponsor of the YouTube channel. Just friends of the program.
Yeah, we're big fans. Send us pictures this weekend of you hanging out with your Tito's. You can go to mybookie.ag ham1. That's where you can make your bets. We'll see if our lock of the week and our dud of the week hit. If hopefully you're in our DraftKings game. If you're not, the best thing, the winner gets over $400, and we shout them out on the next pod.
If you're listening to this on Saturday night, the Haberman Middlekauff Incorporated just got a little check for some work that we did earlier this year, and I'm going to go cash it, and then I'll Venmo Haberman his half, and I might dabble, take some of that into my bookie. I hammered this home on the Friday pod. I do like dogs plus 11.5. And I might just sprinkle, even if it's $50, almost 3.5 to 1 money line. I think it's like plus 330.
I believe they've won 3 straight against UCLA as a program. So revenge.
I was there for one of them.
Game.
Did you go to that game that I was at? Rose Bowl? 09? Ryan Matthews? 08, actually?
No, I was not there. Okay. Mailbag, very easy. You go to iTunes, you leave us a review. We really appreciate it, first and foremost. It's how you share our podcast with others. It helps the algorithms on iTunes. It helps us out. 5 stars, if you want, whatever. Leave us a question in that. Tell us your favorite bar, too. That's why we get to some of the bars in this thing. So, John, here we go. Let's dive in. Mailbag. And here we go. Ham pod, best pod out there. Thanks, Mike P. Question. Not as much a question, but more of a pushback. We don't know how good the Raiders will be this week, but I look around the AFC, the Bills, the Browns, the Chiefs, the Titans are probably locks for the playoffs, but argue not many other teams have gotten better. The Dolphins with Tua ain't better. Colts with Wentz, who's always hurt. Ravens have everyone hurt. Donkeys got Teddy as their quarterback. Pats have a rookie QB. Jets are the Jets. Steelers with old Ben. It's not that crazy. I would argue Hill and Kelsey only got older, and the Chiefs don't look much better. You can't argue that the Raiders definitely have you can't argue the Raiders defense has gotten a major overhaul, much more talent. My Tito's hot take is Raiders win the division. Call it delusion, but that's why it's a hot take. Love the show.
Did you watch those old guys, Kelsey and Hill, against the Browns?
Yeah, I actually think there's some really good points in this.
I agree.
But that one's not one. That's not one.
Yeah, I'd throw that one in the trash, and then I would remove the Titans and write just AFC South, which clearly going to be probably the Titans or the Colts. The Texans, who knows? I mean, they get off to a hot start. But I'm with you. But the Dolphins, they beat you last year. Like the way their style is, like they're going to come in. That game might be a pick 'em. If they beat the Bills, hell, they could be favored if they beat the Bills by like a touchdown. The Chiefs, to me, are clearly better. We'll see the Steelers. I mean, that's I guess that's his point. But yeah, I just think the AFC has a lot of talent, and the Raiders, as you saw on Monday night, like miracle might be strong, but it had to take some weird shit for them to win. It's not like, they just beat the Ravens were injured, but they just won by 14 points, pushed them around.
But if the Ravens had won, we'd be saying the same thing. It took some weird shit for them to win.
Yeah, but I think we all believe that the Ravens are a little flawed with their 7 million ACL injuries now, right?
yeah.
Ronnie Stanley's out, and Villanueva, the Army Ranger who'd been with the Steelers forever, is now their starting left tackle.
Well, thank you for your service. Hopefully he's better at left tackle than right. I mean, left tackle is his position. So right tackle was not a good position for him.
Also, it's like, Ronnie Stanley's not quite ready. Yeah, we saw his leg get snapped last year. Shocker, he's not, week 1, he was going to be slow to come back.
I know. I remember before the year, I said, I think the Raiders are, I could see them in the playoffs. And then we went through their schedule and I went, oh, maybe I can't. But if they're 2-0, if they beat the Steelers and the Ravens, it's more about them and less about the rest of the division, rest of the conference.
The Donkey's nickname is a good one. If you hate I give
Yes.
I give the AFC West, I guess probably just the Chiefs and the Raiders. The Charger fans I don't think really talk down to other opponents in their division. They're just happy to be there.
They're the Padre part of them does, although I haven't heard a lot of that lately.
No, they've been quiet. They've been falling off the map. There's Bruce Bochy buzz coming back. You see that?
John Dickinson said to me after the Bochy retirement, like, oh, it'll be great for the Giants when he comes back for the Padres.
Sunday Night Baseball within the last month. Oh, it was the Giants-Dodger game. Buster Olney said that, clearly they're friends. He's like, yeah, I talked to Bruce, and Bruce told me I am not retired for life.
Bruce made that clear even after he left the Giants, that he was not necessarily done if it was a right situation.
Yeah, I'm going to have some cocktails. I'm going to fish a little bit, and I'm going to be ready to roll once the team's stacked. So, yeah, hot take right now, Bruce Bochy's the next manager.
I'm telling you, I think it's been kind of cooking for a while now, because he refused to say, I've just walked away. The only question. Well, you don't know what to say?
Does he call Flannery and say, one last ride?
One last ride again.
Well, we already did the ride. Well, I need you again. If I tell you it's announced Bochy is the manager of the Padres, is Flannery his third base coach?
Normally, Flan had some health issues that he had to get through. Hopefully he's 100%. I'm not sure, but I saw him at a Giants game the other day, so he probably is good to go.
Yeah.
All right, John. Next up, this comes from C. Biederman 15. What's some constructive criticism you'd have for an NFL beat writer? We get it from fans, but would love to hear your thoughts. Favorite bar, Cooperage and Santa Rosa for obvious reasons. Keep up the awesome work. You know what I love about this one from Chris Biederman? We didn't do a mailbag last week, and I saw it. I was like, I won't tell Middlekauff ahead of time. He doesn't pretend that he's not Chris Biederman in this question.
I think Biederman, I'm going to give him a compliment, does a really good job of asking just a very specific question. I would put him as maybe the best question asker in the group, because I think he kind of gets technical, but it's a big picture thing, but it's a very pointed question. It's not,
but a good delivery.
Yeah. And some of them can be a little uncomfortable, but not in not like in a cone way, where I think he's kind of looking for a reaction. I think he asks good questions.
Okay. But he didn't ask for a compliment. He asked for constructive criticism.
You go first.
Apparel, attire. It'd be nice if there's a uniform, like all the writers were tucked in shirts. Although I don't, so actually sometimes I do, but that's more of I'm not very tall, and so it's hard to get golf shirts that fit me right. They're either too tight or too long.
Get to the bottom of this Ayuk situation. I mean, we got to make
yeah. There you go. Constructive criticism.
Kinlaw.
Make those in power more uncomfortable.
Okay, one constructive criticism. There are several players on the Niners, and have been since Kyle was there. And maybe this is the nature. It's a tough job to do because these guys spend a lot of time around those guys, and you and I don't really have to answer to them, and we can say whatever we want and never sit there and look Kyle in the eye. Even though we'd love to have him on the podcast and look him in the eye, we'd come down there in a heartbeat. But I would say there are stories that happen a lot of times with Kyle that it's like something's brewing, but we never quite know the answer. And he's a tough nut to crack, and it's hard. But I would say the Kinlaw, Ayuk, there are some stories of some stuff brewing that I think sometimes in the other markets. Now, part of it is the Niners are very, very careful with what comes out, and they made a conscious effort since this group has been in there. Kyle doesn't care, but the other guys about what gets out. Where in Philly or New York or some of these other markets, Sunday morning there would be a big article on Ayuk. Now the Niners do not operate like that, but if we could get a couple more of those, we would love it because we'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, it helps when the team wants to motivate a guy through the media, and that's not. I'll give you one actually that's more of a global. Not Niners specific, but just more of a bigger picture one would be I understand why the media, when a player gets I understand why the media sometimes feels obligated to remind everybody else that athletes are humans too, because they are, obviously. But the percentage of people that actually treat them, yell at them in their DMs, I don't mean yell at, I just mean really are inappropriate, is so small. Most of the people understand that it's insane to send Raheem Mostert's wife messages about what a loser he is. you're not making that announcement on the internet, and then someone who is that level of like crazy goes, "Oh, good point. I won't be such a dick anymore." Most people get it. Most people know that when you move, your job moves you somewhere else that it's not your choice. That's shitty. But most people are tuning in because they like the games. And I have no problem sharing the human interest side of it, right? Like, there's just a fundamental reason you do it. It helps you with access to players when they realize, like, yeah, this is something I appreciate you standing up for me, but also it's legitimate. Like, this is not the newspaper era. There's enough space for all of it. All of it. You can do 12 all 22 breakdowns and also do a human interest story, right? It used to be the newspaper was only so big, the internet didn't exist. You had to make a decision, this thing or that thing. Well, in the internet era, there's no this or that because we're not limited to only 12 pages. So you can do it all. So I'm not saying when you say, hey, a big part of the trade deadline is, athlete leaves, family stays behind. That's stressful on the family. That's real. All I'm saying is don't tell the consumer like you guys are jerks for not also acknowledging this aspect of it. That's a piece. Now, I don't even know if that's a beat writer thing or just an internet thing. But I think most people are reasonable people. Most people get it.
I do think the
A few
internet
people
thing,
act like jerks, and so we react to those people.
yeah, I
which
do
we
think the
shouldn't do.
social media thing with family members sometimes gets blown out of proportion of like uh, connects to a lot of people. I think it connects to a very, very small percentage of fucking losers.
And I'm not saying don't defend Raheem
No.
Mostert's white. Right. I'm not saying let that person hang out there by themselves. I'm just saying don't make the mistake of thinking this is how most people feel or act.
I also have a big picture thought on social media that like, and listen, I don't pretend like Raheem Mostert's wife should quite understand this, but definitely for the players or any person that's has a following, part of taking the good is taking the really bad, and we know the really bad at this point in time. Like in 14, 15,
sure.
maybe like at this point in time, like
But
I'm just shocked with nothing that's said. Again,
I know.
I exclude
But
her.
when it's happening to you,
I know, but we have evidence
doesn't
now.
quite
It
do the same
happens
thing.
nonstop.
I know, but it doesn't change the fact that when it happens to you, it's a lot harder to be like, it's just the internet. Right.
I know,
I
but we all
understand.
take the good really well. Most of us
I know,
don't handle
but
the
we've
bad.
been on the internet, but we're internet experts.
But I'm saying so are
We
the
got
the
thick skin.
players and all these other people now have been on the
Yeah,
internet
but
for a
they
long
still.
time.
I mean, we are like experts. Like in terms of the internet experts, we're in the top 1% of just
I think
being on the internet all the time.
we get also what we do. We get a lot more just over the time bad with the good. It's like a pretty balance. I think as a player, sometimes you get a lot of good. So
All
it's
right,
hard
next
once
up,
you do the
John
bad.
from Walter. Love the occasional references to small towns in the Central Valley. I'm a teacher at Fireball High School, and this city takes great pride in Josh Allen. Funny thing is, I'm originally from Mendota, rival town about 10 minutes away, and we beat Josh Allen twice in 2013. Think about that, beating Josh Allen twice in high school. Go Dogs. I have lots of Bulls Tavern stories. Not a question there, but good insight. That's okay.
Yeah.
Keeps us moving.
Bull
Thank
sweat.
you, Walter. Walter Ayala, by the way, full name on the internet. Look at this.
How many people on that team that are working now in the Central Valley tell that story? We beat him twice. Same year. Josh Allen. Oh, that guy got 150 million. When that story broke, Josh Allen just signed 150 million dollars. How many people in Mendota were telling their buddies at the local plant, wherever they're working, we fucking kicked his ass? Not once, but again, that has to mean the playoffs, right?
He might have had
twice in the regular
360
season
against the Dolphins, but he had 72 yards against Mendota.
Yeah,
next up from Anthony, I'm confused about Todd Downey. Maybe this is what I was thinking of on our last podcast when I asked you about Downey. I thought Downey was Carr's OC when Carr was up for MVP till he broke his leg. Maybe I'm wrong. I also didn't like Del Rio getting fired after 2 winning seasons. Please break down the last season of Del Rio so I can understand. Enjoy listening. If you're in Brentwood, Northern California, try Caps with 2 P's. It's great food and great bar.
That's not far away from me. I think Brentwood's like 15, 20 minutes.
So
I don't think
can we do a deep dive on Del Rio's time? No,
he had 1 winning season.
The Derek for MVP season, wasn't that a Musgrave year?
Yeah, it was. Musgrave got fired after that year. So Jack got 7-9. Then they went 12-4. Musgrave got fired after 12-4 because a lot of teams were going to hire Todd Downing. Todd Downing gets upgraded. Disaster. I mean, the offense just looked terrible.
And the Del Rio thing was simple. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, and Todd Downing's offense again he just has no instincts. Todd Downing as a play caller.
And the Del Rio thing had nothing to do with really anything Del Rio was doing because John Gruden was available. Mark was going to hire his friend John Gruden.
John Gruden said, "I'm willing to come back." Mark in Tampa Bay went all in, and John signed. Took him $100 million, but he signed.
Del Rio was in the wrong place at the wrong time on that one.
Do you remember how Del Rio was fired, guy?
How Del Rio was fired?
Walking off the field. Remember that against the Chargers? And then as he went in, because the story broke, and as he went into his press conference, Mark had fired him on the field.
Very weird.
Yeah.
That thing doesn't get enough. That thing doesn't get enough attention. But you just brought it. All right. Next up from somebody whose name is just letters. HCSEJBCEHJBDDHJBS. If that's actually your name, I'm going to need a pronunciation guide. Says, hey guys, great show. Can't get enough. Viking fan here. I know that you're not very keen on Kyler Murray, but I drafted him in fantasy, and I'm wondering if you think he can be a good fantasy performer. Do you think he'll run the ball like he did last year pre-injury or be more conservative like he was post-injury? Best place to get a drink is Zorbaz on Gull Lake in Lakeshore, Minnesota. Keep up the great work. Love the show. Mikey, half a full name on the internet. Zorbaz, Zorbaz, if anyone's heading to Gull Lake in Lakeshore, Minnesota. What do you think?
I think he's a fantastic fantasy football player. Like, I mean, of the fantasy football, I know there's always pushback. Running backs go ahead of quarterbacks. I listened to Matthew Berry say something recently. He's like, well, these running quarterbacks that now can throw, right? If you can throw for 35 touchdowns and then also run for 7 or 8 and run for 500 yards, that's an added element that forever, beside like Michael Vick, it didn't really exist. I'm watching Jalen Hurts. He's going to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns and also run for 50 yards. Like you get credit for rushing yards. Kyler's better. Kyler's, I don't know what his week 1 fantasy was, but it had to be pretty good. He threw 4 touchdowns and he ran for 68 yards. I think he's got to be a top 2 or 3 fantasy quarterback. What do you say?
Yeah, when you say we're not keen on him, like
I might take him.
He's pretty damn good. I wonder, you've brought up the longevity. For me, it's just like, is he the leader of that team? Like, is he that type of guy? Do we know that yet? I don't think we know that yet. There have been some. What was it Steve Young that said he'd heard from a NFL veteran that Kyler's not? I heard from somebody. Yeah, that was the theory. I heard similar from somebody who is very tight with somebody on that team. That we're not positive that Kyler's leader.
TJ Watt told you that JJ told you?
Yeah, TJ told me. Damn it. All right, John, next up. This is from Jiffy. Love the After Game Live broadcast. Why do the Niners keep doubling down on injured players? Verrett, 2 ACL tears and Achilles. Mostert, multiple games. Kinlaw, history of knee tendonitis going into the draft, just to name a few. The definition of, he didn't mention Hurd. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Now they're short at key positions. You can only blame luck for so long. Shanahan and Lynch deserve a sizable share of the blame here. Stay healthy and keep grinding.
Like, why am I not getting skinny? Well, you had Chinese food one night, Thai food the next night, and pizza the other night. It's why. It's like, well, it's insanity, right? Do the same thing over and over, never get skinny.
If they fail, if this doesn't work, the Shanahan Lynch era, this will be one of the major. I mean, some of their draft misses, but everyone hits and misses in the draft. But this will be a big part of the story because I do think you get last year as kind of, we've talked about this as kind of a, hey, shit happens to teams. If the same stuff happens this year to some of the same players, not all of them are the same players, then they're not going to get a free pass again. Now, what does that actually mean? Does it mean they're getting fired? No. But the pressure will ramp up a little bit.
The only way I can envision a future firing is Trey Lance's disaster, which would, because to me, if he's good, he'll mask screw ups. Chiefs had misses.
This is why you
look at Seattle. To me, if he's good, you'll be okay. If he's just average, you got problems. Right?
Kind of funny, right? Kyle has told us the reason you chase a top 5 quarterback is because they can. That's what top 5 quarterbacks do.
I think we're all in agreement. They had the right mindset. They swung for the fences. Then once you swing for the fences, you just got to see where the ball goes. Trey's the ball right now. I don't really know where, he's probably still not even in the air yet.
Next up, John, this is from Facebook, where you can also ask us questions. This is from Corbin. He says, question for you guys. Is Tom the best of the GOATs? I'm an Niners fan, but Tom is as far as transcended Montana now. He's not even close. He has to be in the mix for the GOAT of all GOATs. I'm from Australia. And as far as U.S. sports, he would have to be Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali group now, doesn't he? Yes.
Yeah.
GOAT of GOATs.
Yes.
Agreed. Good call.
Would you rank him, though, above? Like, I'd have Michael and Tiger above him. Like, as an individual player, like, those guys were better at what they did than Tom. But Tom's career, when the dust settles, he might have the best career out of all four of those guys, or, himself included, which is weird.
Yeah, I
like, peak Tiger and peak Michael were better than
too.
Peak Tom.
Yeah, I think so. But they were just so, part of that was they were so physically, athletically dominant, right? Can you not be ahead of those guys if you're not more, just not, he doesn't look like them in terms of the style, the game, but he fucking wins.
But he kind of did, right? Because when he was younger and they got Randy Moss, I remember him throwing all the bombs.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, like, individually, those guys
running
were so
around,
different than everybody else. Well, especially Tiger. I guess Michael's a different argument. Michael was part of it was he played defense as well as he played offense. Next up, this comes from Ralph, John. Ralph says, agree or disagree? Khalil Mack is the modern day Dick Butkus. Never in a title game, let alone a Super Bowl. Bears aren't going anywhere this year, and going 9-8 and 10-7 leaves you in no man's land. Does he eventually leave to chase a title? I was just thinking about Dick Butkus, John.
What were you thinking?
Well, I mean, should he have gone 3? No, I wasn't. Here's something interesting, though. He was the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft in 1965 and a 2nd-round pick that same year in the AFL draft.
So we had options.
He was the 9th overall pick, 2nd round, I said, but there were only 8 teams. He was the 9th overall pick. In the AFL draft that year, Gale Sayers, that was Joe Namath's round. In 65, in the NFL draft, that was Butkus. Oh, and Gale Sayers. The Bears drafted Butkus and Sayers, and then both their guys got drafted in the AFL, but obviously they went to
Do you think in the history of human beings, anyone's ever had Dick and Butt in the same full name?
Well, there was the race car guy named Dick Trickle. So no, sorry, I couldn't think of the last name, but that's a good one. I do wonder, does there come a time when the Bears trade Khalil Mack for something?
Well, he's not any good anymore. Might be the problem. Honestly, guy, he might be kind of shot. He looked bad the other night. He wasn't that good last. I mean, for his standard, like his arrow seems to be not pointing in the right direction. It could just be the vibe there when you're just defensive. He's just over. Like, can I just plan a good offense? Right? Can I just do where I just get to hunt? But that's not the case when you're always down and playing the run.
All right. Next up, that would be
Dick Butkus.
Would the Raiders look better? Next up, this question is: except for the pick of the stick, what's your favorite Niners moment? Your favorite NFL moment, and then your favorite Super Bowl moment? You guys should come to London for one of the international games. Do a live pod from a London pub, Ham Pod Pub. Give UK a slice of the ham action. The first round of Tito's is on me. Except pick of the stick. What's your favorite Niners moment? I mean, besides the Tom Sula fart, which Joe Staley confirmed to us,
would probably be the Terrell Owens catch from Steve Young where he almost tripped against the Packers in the wild card round. The other moment, it wasn't an individual moment, but the 3 straight series of Alex touchdown run, Drew Brees touchdown to Jimmy Graham, and then Alex to Vernon Davis, and then he cries to Harbaugh. Like, just that sequence. The Terrell Owens moment, that was probably 97 or 98. I remember I had a babysitter who was this older lady. By that time, I was like 12 or 13. But she was out of town. I went over there to do something with her pool. I watched the game by myself at like 13 or 12 years old. And I remember watching that. I lost my voice from screaming so loud, the Terrell Owens moment.
Oh, you never heard about that happening to kids.
I know. I was a good fan back then. But I would that was pretty sweet. You just think about it, Steve Young to Terrell Owens to win a game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that was.
And Vernon Davis, both of them kind of similar, right? Over the middle. Both of them are crying off the field, like pretty visual in tears, getting hugged by their coach, Mooch and Harbaugh.
I remember just as a kid the dominance of the Chargers Super Bowl. I think for me, I don't remember the catch. For so many people, if you're older than us, the catch would be your moment. But I remember I had a little figurine.
You
of
mean
Joe.
1981 when we weren't alive?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had a figurine, born in 85. I had a figurine of Joe Montana, and it came throwing the football. And it came, think about this, it came with an Ed Too Tall Jones figurine too. So Ed Too Tall Jones, who was the defender on that play with his arms outstretched, that Montana had to throw it high because Ed Too Tall Jones was in front of him. They called Ed. They're like, Ed, you got a figurine. He's like, sweet. They're like, well, it's part of the Montana figurine pack. You don't actually have your own figurine. That's some bullshit. That moment I've watched so many times. Just as a football fan, you watch NFL films over the years. I've watched the drive, that particular drive on YouTube. I can't get over that thing. I didn't see it live, so I don't have like that memory of it. But I do understand every time I watch it, I think the ball is going too high. And it's Vince Scully, so even though I wasn't alive for it, the reason, if you're new to the show, Pick at the Stick, we were there right there on the sideline, sandwiched basically between Jim Harbaugh and Chris Berman, and on the field for the Pick at the Stick. So
where would you put the scramble Y.A. Tittle 1969 against
that's just I haven't watched that one quite as many times.
I typed in Terrell Owens, Steve Young. On Wikipedia, it's known as the catch number 2.
If that's what Wikipedia says.
1999.
Yeah. Favorite NFL moment? This is favorite spelled with a U. Anything else you want to add here?
Yeah, I mean,
James Harrison's interception return for a touchdown in the Super Bowl is pretty high for me.
That'd be up there, yeah. Malcolm Butler catch, pretty crazy.
The Malcolm Butler. Oh my, that's a good one. Because if you had said right there, Guy, how much money do you want to bet on whether or not Marshawn Lynch scores a touchdown on this play? I said yes. I'll bet all the money I have. There's no doubt in my mind that's what's about to happen.
The 28-3 comeback, the game sucked. I remember laying on my couch like, this is stupid. I'm going to take a nap. It felt a little bit like Broncos Seattle. Remember when Seattle just kicked the shit out of the Broncos?
Yeah.
When the comeback started happening, and then when it kind of got real, you start thinking like the Patriots, are they really going to? I kind of vividly remember when it got to like one score, I'm like, this is nuts. They're really going to pull this off. And when they scored to tie it, I'm like, they're going to win this thing in overtime. And they went right down the field and won it in overtime.
Right. I know. It's a good one. There's so many good ones. Okay. Get in the mailbag. We appreciate that. Check out upstart.com/ham. Go to rexmd.com/ham right now for generic Viagra.
Get in our league, DraftKings. Download the app, promo code ham.
DraftKings. That link is down in the description. If you're listening to this, there might not be any spots left in our game, but get in the league anyway. Click on that link so you'll get the invite when the game goes live next week. All right, y'all.